Hello, just wanted to come back and do a quick retouching tutorial on retouching, how to quickly retouch. Today we're actually going to be working on a photo that I did a couple of months ago with Nikki Nelson. She is a model, photographer, esthetician, as well as creative director at her local church. So we're going to work with some photos that she took a few months ago. So we'll come to this image right here, which is not a bad image. She did her makeup like super good. She wore colors that popped a little bit. I already done deepen the blacks in Lightroom, as well as turn up the saturation to get the color in her jacket to pop a little bit. But what I'm going to do is actually take this to Photoshop by pressing Command E on my Mac. It directly sends it over to Photoshop. So there's a few things I want to actually touch up on, and we're going to cover a few things in this tutorial. So first things first, of course I'm going to touch the skin. Not all the time, probably remove the birthmark, as well as remove these like some marks in the chair that I probably end up removing. So, and we'll probably work with the Liquify tool as well. So first things first, what I do is I usually go right here to the spot healing tool, click on that, and basically make sure that's on content aware. And I basically zoom into her face. And like I said earlier, her skin is definitely not that bad. So I'm gonna use a spot healing brush. And right now I'm using the Wacom tablet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go ahead and just go to work on it. And of course, I'm gonna come down here, right here to the chest area, and remove some of these strands of hair right here. And what we're gonna do is remove this birthmark right here. So I'm actually using my brackets to make my my healing brush just a little bit bigger. And let's see what Photoshop does. Voila. Awesome sauce. And as mentioned earlier, I want to remove these spots that's also in the chair. So I'm actually gonna come right here. And I think that's all I want to get as far as the spot healing brush. And let's see what we got. Oh, I got one more piece right here. All right, that's about where I want it. And right here. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use my high pass filter action. If you want to use the high pass filter action, I should have it in the description of this video. Go over here, hit the button. So what you gotta check out is, right now I have a black layer mask on, which means that I have to paint on the high pass in the areas that I want it to affect. So I have to go over here and make sure that I have the brush tool selected, and ensure that on my color palette that I'm using white. And what I'll do is come to the face, and make my brush a little bit smaller, and gently use the high pass filter. And what you'll see over time is that the skin will become smoother, along with keeping texture. That's always the goal, is to keep texture. If you notice right now, it's actually blending in colors, mixing in colors. Now, what I want you to know is also that what we're going to do is we're actually going to pull back on the opacity of the high pass filter. So we're going to come right here to the layers and make sure we have the layer mask selected. Come right here to opacity and just bring it down just a little tad bit. And I think right about there, to me, is about perfect. And make sure. And I'm going to actually come down to our feet area and just make sure that the tones are even with the high pass filter. And I think that's about perfect, as perfect as it's going to get for right now. And if you pull it back on a little bit, it's kind of where I want it, but it's not exactly where I want it. So I'm actually going to pull back on that high pass just a little bit to make sure that it still looks natural. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to flatten this to combine all of that to make one layer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my dodge and burn process. Now always remember that dodging is for highlights, burning is for your shadows. So also I have a dodge and burn set right here, and usually I do my highlights on the top layer and I do my shadows, which is the burn on the bottom layer. So but today I'm gonna start with my highlights and come right over here to my my toolbar and come right here, and I have the option to choose dodge, burn, or sponge. Being that I'm dealing with the shadows for highlights first, I'm gonna go ahead and click this dodge tool and begin to work on some of the highlights that I think are going to be seen by different viewers, whether or not it be Instagram or Facebook. The nose bridge area, right here usually. Right at the chin. And keep in mind that I am going to pull back on the opacity on this highlight slider. And if you choose to, you can always, to give it like a three-dimensional feel, you can always hit some of these highlight portions of the hair that kind of add to the 3D look of the picture. And I don't know whether or not you can see it, but right here in her tights, she has some shiny tights. So what I usually like to do is go right down the leg, so you can make sure you can capture some of the highlights in her leggings. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull back on those highlights that I just painted in. It's not exactly perfect, but for the sake of this video, and I'm going to come down to the shadows where I'm going to be doing my burning process. Right click over here using the burn tool, and the main part I really want to get is right here on the jawline. And right underneath the lip, under the chin, and usually right here on the back end of the nose and on the front end of the nose. And then right here, here's some pieces of the hair, just a little bit to give it a little contrast and three-dimensional effect. Every now and then you can hit the creases and crevices of the details. And what I'm gonna do is come right to the opacity slider and cut it down just a hair. And right there, that to me, that looks good to me right there. What I'm gonna also do right here is use the Liquify tool, because right here in the hair area, her hair is good, but I kind of want to just bring it down just a little tad bit. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flatten this, go up here to filter, go to Liquify, and once again use the brackets. Oops, there we go. Just want to bring it in just a little smidge. And my last step that I usually do is I sharpen, and I click my sharpen action right here. Okay. Okay. And I let Photoshop do what it do. Click OK. And the sharpening is applied. I don't know if you can really see a difference, but it is, the details is pretty intense. Pull back on it. What I want to do is actually come right back to the opacity slider again and just turn down some of that sharpness. Right there. That right there is perfect. All right. So earlier I know Some of y'all probably noticed there's some flyaways here and there. So what I would recommend doing is actually coming in right there. I have a remove hair action. Okay. And make sure you go right over here to your brush tool. Sample the background. And come right to the edge. And you can begin removing hair. And pull back and take a look at it. And to me, that looks about good. So that is, matter of fact, let me flatten it. Command S to save it. And it automatically dumps it right back into Lightroom. And voila, it's loading. Voila, it's there in Lightroom to export. And simply come to export. Go to create a Nikki layer. I just keep the resolution at about 150 and export. Go to Nikki. Sitting right there is her final image. That about sums up this tutorial. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments or email me info@peculiarimagesbyrj.com. Once again, that's info@peculiarimagesbyrj.com.